Even while presenting itself globally as a champion of human rights, liberty, and equality, France had still technically kept in place a slavery-era law that once classified enslaved people in its colonies as property under the state. France has now officially repealed the notorious Black Code law that treated human beings as movable property. But the move comes a staggering 178 years after the country had already formally abolished slavery itself. A law originally signed in 1685 under King Louis XIV to regulate slavery across French colonies has now finally been repealed in 2026, closing one of the darkest remaining legal chapters of France's colonial past. Despite the repeal of the slavery-era law, millions of people living in France's former overseas colonies continue to remain politically governed from Paris, raising new questions about the legacy of French colonial influence today. France may have finally scrapped one of its most infamous slavery-era laws, but critics argue that elements of colonial control and dependence still continue through Paris's relationship with several overseas territories. A full 178 years after officially abolishing slavery, France has now finally overturned a law that once legally classified enslaved human beings as property under its colonial system. On May 28, France's National Assembly voted unanimously to repeal the slavery-era law known as the Black Code, marking a major symbolic moment in the country's reckoning with its colonial past. French lawmakers passed the repeal in a rare and striking display of political unity, with a final vote ending 254-0 in favor of removing the centuries-old slavery legislation from French law. France officially scrapped the notorious 17th-century Black Code on May 28, ending a colonial-era legal framework that had once governed and regulated slavery across French overseas territories. The law, known as the Black Code, was originally signed by King Louis XIV in 1685 as France expanded its colonial empire and slavery system across overseas territories. Its 60 articles controlled nearly every aspect of the lives of enslaved people, regulating their movement, labor, punishment, religion, and legal status under French colonial rule. Under the code, enslaved men, women, and children were officially declared movable property, effectively reducing human beings to objects that could be owned, traded, and controlled. The law also allowed enslaved people to be sold, violently punished, beaten, and even killed under the colonial system that France maintained across its territories. Runaway slaves faced especially brutal punishments under the code, with the law permitting mutilation and severe physical abuse as a warning to others who attempted to escape slavery. French President Emmanuel Macron has also recently raised the possibility of reparations linked to slavery and France's colonial past, reopening a highly sensitive national debate over historical accountability and compensation. After repealing the law, the French president said, and I quote, "The code should never have survived the abolition of slavery in 1848. The silence, even the indifference, that we have maintained for nearly 2 centuries towards this code noir is no longer an oversight. It has become a form of offense." The issue of reparations was one we must not refuse, but the country must not make false promises. France was once the world's third-largest slave trading power after Britain and Portugal, playing a massive role in the transatlantic slave trade that reshaped economies, empires, and millions of lives across continents. Historical estimates suggest that France transported around 1.4 million Africans to work on colonial plantations, where enslaved people were forced into brutal labor systems across the Caribbean and other French territories. The enormous wealth generated through the slave trade helped finance and develop major French port cities such as Nantes and Bordeaux, which became central hubs of colonial commerce and maritime trade. In the French colony of Saint-Domingue, enslaved people eventually launched a massive revolt and successfully won independence in 1804 after one of the most important slave uprisings in world history. That former French colony of Saint-Domingue later became modern-day Haiti, the first black republic born out of a successful slave revolution against colonial rule. After Haiti gained independence, France forced the newly freed nation to pay massive financial reparations to former French slave owners in exchange for diplomatic recognition and an end to military threats. According to The Guardian, Haiti continued paying this crushing debt to France until 1947, leaving long-term economic scars that many historians still link to the country's ongoing struggles today. Even after officially abolishing slavery, France continued to retain several overseas colonies, maintaining political control and administrative authority over territories far from mainland Europe. In 1946, territories including Guadeloupe, Martinique, French Guiana, and Réunion were formally turned into French overseas departments directly governed under the French state. Today, most people living in France's overseas territories are descendants of enslaved Africans and colonial-era populations shaped by centuries of French imperial rule and forced labor systems. Around 1.9 million people living across France's overseas territories continue to remain politically governed from Paris, fueling ongoing debates over colonial legacy, autonomy, and modern French influence.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.